While sitting in jail refusing to say where her son is, Elizabeth Johnson begins to open up during a recorded conversation with a San Antonio detective, saying what she did was aimed at baby Gabriel's father, Logan McQuarrie.
I blamed him for everything. Ever since I met him, he brought me down and just took everything from me. I wanted to hurt him, and that was the only thing I could do. And I also blamed him for me giving away my baby. I wanted to do it on my own. And also ruining my life.
Claiming she gave the baby away while in San Antonio at a park.
I told him my address where I was. I showed him across the street to the park.
About an incredibly manipulative woman who has worked the system to her advantage now. If she, in fact, this baby, I will be the first one at Huntsville watching her die.
You just destroyed my life. Yes, you have. He made me do it to my baby boy. So go find some new girl to make you a new baby. What she did next shocked the world. Her 8-month-old son, Baby Gabriel, vanished without a trace. Did she really make him disappear forever? Or is he still alive somewhere? The 27th of December, 2009. There was no warning, no slow buildup to the horror that was about to unfold. On this frigid winter morning, Logan McQuarrie's world shattered into a million unfixable pieces. He was supposed to pick up his son that day. He was expecting a routine custody exchange, perhaps another tense argument with his estranged ex-girlfriend, Elizabeth Johnson. Instead, he was met with an agonizing silence that was violently broken by the ring of his cell phone. When he answered, the raw panic that gripped his chest was instantaneous. It wasn't just a phone call, it was a direct line into a living nightmare. On the other end of the line, Elizabeth's voice cut through the air like a razor blade. She wasn't crying. She wasn't hysterical. She was completely, terrifyingly cold. To understand the sheer magnitude of the shock that paralyzed Logan in that exact moment, you have to picture what he was fighting for. He was fighting for Gabriel. Just 8 months old, baby Gabriel was the absolute definition of innocence. He was a vibrant, joyful little boy who lit up the entire room the moment his father walked in. Gabriel had these stunning, crystal-clear, bright blue eyes that seemed to take in the entire world with boundless curiosity and warmth. He was a baby who loved playing on his colorful mat, batting at his toys, and giggling with a pure, infectious laugh. He deserved a safe, loving home. He deserved a future. But in a flash, that beautiful image was violently replaced by the sinister reality of a mother's ultimate betrayal. As Logan pressed the phone tightly against his ear, desperate for answers, Elizabeth unleashed a torrent of psychological warfare. The words that left her mouth were so twisted, so profoundly evil, that they defy human comprehension. She didn't take responsibility. Instead, she weaponized her own child to inflict maximum emotional damage on the man she claimed to have loved. The official recording captured the chilling exchange that still haunts investigators to this day. Elizabeth screamed into the receiver,
"You destroyed my life.
I haven't destroyed anything, Liz.
Yes, you have, like baby boy. You're not gonna talk to me about this? You don't care? You don't believe me? You knew I would do it, and you pushed me anyway."
I was giving you your space. I didn't push you. You need to knock this off.
I'm betrayed, Logan. I have emotional issues, and you know that.
Let that sink in. Read those words again, and feel the weight of the horror. What struck me the most was the absolute lack of emotion in her voice when she told him to go make a new baby. She spoke about an innocent 8-month-old child, as if he were nothing more than a broken toy, a piece of disposable property that could easily be replaced by some new girl. It was a level of detachment that goes beyond ordinary criminal cruelty. It was a glimpse into a deeply unstable, narcissistic mind that valued revenge over human life. Logan was left gasping for air, clutching his phone in sheer disbelief as Elizabeth hung up, leaving him stranded in a vacuum of total terror. Gabriel was gone, vanished without a trace into the bleak Texas winter, and the horrifying search was only just beginning. When investigators first began to unravel the timeline of Elizabeth's sudden departure from Arizona, nothing seemed to add up. They mapped out her route, tracing her steps as she crossed state lines, driving through the vast stretches of New Mexico, all the way down to San Antonio, Texas. This is where the story takes a dark turn, shifting from a chaotic custody dispute into something far more calculated and sinister. A former FBI profiler looked closely at this exact journey and immediately pointed out a glaring inconsistency. If a person simply wanted to make their child disappear, they would never endure a grueling multi-state road trip to do it. They would stay close to home. Traveling thousands of miles to a very specific city in Texas meant one thing. San Antonio was not a random stop on a map. It was a destination with a distinct, shadowy purpose. There were no receipts, no logical explanations, and no history of her owning such an exquisite item before her trip to Texas. The puzzle pieces suddenly snapped into a terrifying picture. The chilling reality was voiced perfectly by those who refused to let the case be swept under the rug. As the official recordings documentary highlighted, the frustration from those seeking the truth was palpable.
She had had that ring for any length of time. She would have pawned it to help their situation. She wouldn't have just kept it.
That right there tells me that somebody paid her for a baby because she wasn't able to pay her rent the next.
It shifts the entire narrative from a spontaneous act of panic to a cold, calculated transaction. She traded her own flesh and blood for jewelry. Does this make your blood boil too? To truly comprehend the depth of this meticulously planned disappearance, we have to look closely at the person pulling the strings. Why would anyone go to such extreme lengths to orchestrate a secret handover in another state? For Elizabeth Johnson, the answer was not born out of financial desperation. The underground deal and the ruby ring were just a means to an end. Her true motive was something much more sinister: absolute control and calculated vengeance. Those who knew Elizabeth described a deeply unpredictable personality. Her past was turbulent, leaving her constantly on edge and operating with a highly defensive mindset. She was known to go to extreme lengths to manipulate narratives, always ensuring she appeared as the victim while simultaneously orchestrating the chaos around her. Friends noted a particularly unsettling habit that spoke volumes about her state of mind. She routinely slept with a knife hidden right under her pillow. It was a stark physical manifestation of a person who was always anticipating a battle, always ready to strike back against anyone who crossed her. But the most disturbing aspect of her psychology was how she viewed the baby. According to those closest to the couple, she completely lacked a maternal connection. She did not look at Gabriel and see her own child. She saw Logan's baby. She watched the profound, unconditional love Logan had for his son, and instead of sharing in that warmth, she recognized a vulnerability. Gabriel became a pawn on her twisted chessboard. This was never just about a secret transaction in a Texas park. It was a targeted, emotional strike. She knew exactly what would cause Logan the most unimaginable pain, and she used his love for Gabriel as the ultimate weapon against him. She wanted the spotlight, she wanted to dictate the rules, and most importantly, she wanted to completely dismantle Logan's world. If you ever doubted her intentions, her own words to law enforcement strip away any remaining mystery. During a recorded conversation with an ABC 15 detective, the chilling truth finally slipped out. Without a shred of remorse, she stated, "I blamed him for me giving away my baby. I wanted to do it on my own. I wanted to hurt him." I gotta be honest with you, hearing someone admit that they handed over an innocent child to strangers purely to inflict emotional agony on an ex-partner is profoundly sickening. It defies every natural instinct. She didn't do this because she had no other choice. She did it because she wanted to win a toxic, retaliatory game. If you are as invested in untangling these baffling mysteries and seeking the truth as I am, please hit that subscribe button and join our community. We need to keep shining a light on these unresolved stories so they are never forgotten. When a child vanishes, every single passing second is critical. Law enforcement relies heavily on the first 48 hours, often referred to as the golden window, to track movements, secure locations, and bring the missing person home safely. But in the frantic, desperate search for baby Gabriel, that vital window of opportunity was completely shattered. After the shadowy, undocumented exchange in Texas, Elizabeth did not stick around to wait for the authorities. Instead, she immediately went on the run. She changed her identity, slipping away into the shadows, and fled across the country, all the way to Florida. And while she was busy, putting hundreds of miles between herself and the consequences of her actions, the authorities were painfully fumbling the most important phase of the entire pursuit. This part really makes my blood boil when you realize how easily this could have been handled differently. Instead of a unified high-speed task force launching an immediate manhunt, the investigation became hopelessly bogged down by endless red tape and bureaucratic delays. Departments in Arizona and San Antonio continuously pointed fingers at one another, arguing over whose jurisdiction the case belonged to. While they were busy shifting the blame and debating paperwork, the trail was going completely ice cold. The hotel workers who saw her, the exact timeline of her movements, The potential witnesses at the park valuable, time-sensitive leads were slipping away simply because no one stepped up to take total, immediate command of the situation. Eventually, law enforcement managed to track Elizabeth down and take her into custody in Florida. For a brief moment, you would think this was the ultimate victory, the exact moment they would finally get the answers needed to bring Gabriel home. While sitting in custody, she actually began to open up to a San Antonio detective. During the interrogation, she clearly stated that she had handed the little boy over to strangers in a Texas park, providing details and cross streets. It was the massive breakthrough everyone had been desperately praying for. But then came the devastating fatal mistake. In a completely mind-boggling oversight, the detective had conducted this crucial questioning without Elizabeth's attorney knowing about it or being present. By failing to follow strict procedural protocols, the authorities unwittingly handed Elizabeth the ultimate legal loophole. Because she was questioned without proper legal representation, this massive, case-breaking recorded statement was in severe jeopardy of being thrown out of court entirely. The one piece of tangible evidence that could have unraveled the underground transaction was suddenly deemed legally worthless. She didn't just escape with a secret, she was actively shielded by the very justice system that was designed to uncover the truth. The sheer frustration felt by Logan's camp was absolutely immeasurable. They were forced to sit back and watch a highly calculated individual slip right through the cracks of a heavily flawed investigation. Speaking directly to the media on ABC 15, Logan's attorney captured the raw, unfiltered anger of everyone watching this nightmare unfold, stating,
You're talking about an incredibly manipulative woman who has worked the system to her advantage now. If she, in fact, baby, I will be the first one at Huntsville watching her die.
She played a highly dangerous game of cat and mouse, and the authorities essentially handed her the winning cards. A delayed pursuit, a mishandled interrogation, and a missing child left hanging in the balance of a technicality. I'm curious, how would you feel if the system failed someone you love over a procedural error? Drop your take in the comments, because this level of incompetence is truly hard to wrap your head around. The courtroom was packed, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. By the time 2012 rolled around, the entire nation had its eyes glued to this trial. Many onlookers and media outlets were already calling it the second Casey Anthony case, a deeply unsettling situation where a mother, shrouded in a chaotic web of bizarre lies and missing evidence, seemed poised to slip right through the fingers of justice. Elizabeth was facing a staggering 27.5 years behind bars for kidnapping and related charges. For Logan and his family, this was supposed to be the pivotal moment. This was the day the system was finally supposed to work, the day the absolute truth was forcefully dragged into the light. But the legal system is a highly complex, often incredibly frustrating machine. Many people watching the coverage from home were screaming at their televisions, demanding to know why the state didn't simply charge her with the ultimate crime of taking the child's life. The answer lies in a terrifying legal trap known as double jeopardy. Because there was no physical evidence, no definitive scene, and most importantly, no Gabriel, prosecutors were completely boxed in. If they pursued the highest possible charge, and the jury found her not guilty, she could never, ever, be tried for it again, even if undeniable evidence surfaced years later. The prosecution had to hold that final card in their pocket, gambling that the kidnapping charge would be strong enough to put her away for decades. What happened next inside that courtroom shattered whatever remaining faith the public had in the legal process. The defense attorney executed a strategy that was as bold as it was infuriating. During the entire trial, the defense did not call a single witness to the stand, not one. They didn't need to. Elizabeth's own chaotic, entirely contradictory statements had already done the heavy lifting for them. This is the agonizing reality of the legal threshold known as reasonable doubt. Elizabeth had purposely given two entirely different stories. In one breath, she claimed she had caused the ultimate, tragic harm to the boy. In the next breath, she insisted she had safely handed him over to an anonymous couple in a Texas park. By flooding the investigation with conflicting narratives, she created a massive, unsolvable paradox. How could a jury confidently convict her of kidnapping for a specific criminal purpose if they couldn't even agree on which of her lies was the actual truth? The tangled web of deceit was so thick that the prosecution simply couldn't prove one definitive version of events beyond a reasonable doubt. When the jury finally returned with their decision, the silence in the room was deafening. As the verdict was read, the most crucial charge, the kidnapping charge that carried the heaviest weight and the longest sentence, was left completely blank on the form. The jury was deadlocked. They couldn't agree on it. Just like that, without her defense team even having to put up a fight or call a single person to testify, she successfully dodged the massive 27.5-year prison sentence. I couldn't stop thinking about how utterly helpless Logan must have felt in that exact moment. He had trusted the system to bring him answers, to hold someone fully accountable for the disappearance of his son. Instead, he watched legal technicalities and contradictory lies win the day. The woman who held all the secrets was walking away from the most serious consequences. The courtroom was left in a state of absolute disbelief, reeling from a verdict that felt like a devastating failure of justice. But the legal proceedings weren't entirely over just yet. No one could have predicted what the judge did next. After the staggering failure to secure a kidnapping conviction, Elizabeth was found guilty of lesser offenses, including custodial interference. While she did serve some initial time, she was eventually released on probation. The court handed her a set of strict, non-negotiable rules to follow. You would think someone who just barely escaped a multi-decade prison sentence. After the staggering failure to secure a kidnapping conviction, Elizabeth was found guilty of lesser offenses, including custodial interference. While she did serve some initial time, she was eventually released on probation. The court handed her a set of strict, non-negotiable rules to follow. You would think someone who just barely escaped a multi-decade prison sentence would walk the straight and narrow, grateful for her newfound freedom. But true to her highly manipulative nature, Elizabeth operated as if the rules simply did not apply to her. She blatantly disregarded the authority of the justice system. Without securing the mandatory permission from her probation officers, she completely vanished again. She packed her bags, fled the state, and secretly got married. She was actively trying to erase her dark history, seamlessly slipping into a brand new, comfortable life, as if the agonizing nightmare she left behind in Texas never even happened. When the authorities finally caught up with her and hauled her back into court for these undeniable probation violations, everyone held their breath. This was it. This was the moment the system could finally drop the hammer and hold her accountable for her blatant disrespect of the law. She was facing up to 3 years behind bars. But instead of delivering justice, the judge handed down a sentence that felt like a direct, stinging slap in the face to Logan and everyone who had been fighting for Baby Gabriel. For actively fleeing the state, hiding her whereabouts, and mocking her probation, she was sentenced to a mere 20 days in jail. 20 days. It was an absolute mockery of the justice system. But just when you thought the situation couldn't possibly get any more infuriating, her defense attorney stood before the media and made a statement that left the entire nation completely speechless. He proudly announced that once Elizabeth moved past this minor inconvenience, she planned to rebuild her life and become a counselor. Her specific goal? To help other women who were struggling to take care of their children. I gotta be honest with you, hearing that detail makes my stomach completely turn. The very person at the center of one of the most heartbreaking, highly orchestrated infant disappearances in modern history wants to give out parenting advice? It is a sickening level of irony. It takes a deeply twisted, unbothered mindset to even suggest something so wildly inappropriate and tone-deaf. The contrast between the two parents today is the ultimate climax of this injustice. Picture the chilling imagery for a second. Elizabeth gets to put on a pristine white wedding dress. She gets to smile, celebrate a fresh start, and walk freely down the street, completely unburdened by the massive devastation she caused. She gets to build a brand new family. Then, look at Logan. He is a father permanently frozen in time. His living room mantle is lined with photographs of a bright-eyed, 8-month-old boy, a boy he hasn't been able to hold, comfort, or protect in years. While his ex gets a clean slate, Logan is left to stare at age-progressed sketches of his son, wondering what his laugh sounds like, wondering if he is safe, and wondering if he even knows his real name. One person walked away with a new life, while the other was handed a life sentence of unimaginable grief. Let me know below what stands out to you most about this verdict, because seeing someone walk away this easily is enough to make anyone lose faith in the system entirely. Today, the official court files might be closed, and the legal battles may have faded from the headlines, but the search for Baby Gabriel is far from over. The justice system may have completely failed to provide the closure and accountability that Logan so desperately needed, but this story has long transcended the cold, unfeeling walls of a courtroom. While the woman responsible for this heart-wrenching disappearance walked away to start a brand new life, the family left behind refused to let Gabriel's memory fade into the shadows. If we follow the trail of the underground market and the mysterious ruby ring, it leads us to a fragile but deeply powerful glimmer of hope. If Gabriel was indeed handed over to an anonymous couple in that San Antonio park, it means he is still out there. Today, that bright-eyed, 8-month-old baby boy would be a teenager. He would be navigating high school, hanging out with friends, and maybe even getting his driver's license. He could be living a completely normal, happy life in a quiet suburban neighborhood, entirely unaware of the massive, nationwide search that surrounds his true identity. He might be living under a different name, raised by people who have kept the dark origins of his adoption a closely guarded secret. To help bridge the massive gap of time, forensic artists have created age-progressed photos, showing what Gabriel might look like as a young man today. For Logan, staring at these images is an indescribable mix of profound sorrow and unwavering determination. It is a haunting reminder of the years stolen from them, but it is also a beacon of possibility. The family's message to Gabriel, wherever he might be, is nothing short of beautiful, providing a much-needed sense of emotional release after such a dark journey. Through tears and relentless dedication, their plea to him remains unchanged. If you somehow, someday see this, just know that we want you. You are not forgotten. Don't think that one day has gone by where not one of us has thought of you. We love you, and you are always welcome. I gotta be honest with you, it is incredibly difficult to accept that the legal system allowed someone to slip through the cracks so easily, leaving a father with empty hands and a broken heart. But the true power to change the ending of this story no longer lies with a judge or a jury. It lies with us. It lies with the public, the internet, and the incredible ability we have to share a face across the globe in a matter of seconds. All it takes is one person recognizing that age-progressed photo. All it takes is one teenager asking questions about his past. What do you guys think? Despite the failures of the court, does knowing there is a real, fighting chance that Gabriel is still alive out there bring you any sense of relief? Do you believe he is living under the radar with a new family? I really want to hear your theories on this one, so please drop your thoughts down in the comments. If you are as passionate about bringing these unresolved stories to light as I am, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We need to keep sharing these faces and applying pressure until the truth finally comes out. I'll keep digging if there's more to uncover on this case. Thanks for watching, thanks for caring, and for all the comments you guys make this worth it.